So, let's entertain this concept for a minute. Everything you think is you, all your favorite colors, all your childhood memories, your opinions about things, your ability to make choices, all of those you would classify under the category of yourself. Yes, you say, oh, well, this is me, and I live life based on my internal desires. Some tendencies are outside of my control, but for the most part, I am the one guiding this experience I'm having. I, as in self. And most people live their lives this way and don't question it. Maybe they question it a few times. But what really is the self? I mean, taking out all mystical concepts here for a minute, you could boil down every single quantum in your body, every single thought that you've had since you started thinking. All of these things you could add up and say, well, each one of these phenomenon is explainable with a mechanism that exists in the universe. And, you know, you could really boil away the whole idea of a singular self within a matter of less than a minute. I mean, if you truly think about being so wrapped up in a book, for example, that without putting in a conscious effort, you visualize the things within the book. Well, you have just sacrificed the control of your mind that the self would normally have, which is to visualize things, and you have put that in the words that were written by somebody else. The mind is a very interesting thing. But this concept of existence without selfhood is something I want to entertain because most people feel so restricted in their lives. They say, I'm not capable of this, and therefore they don't even try. If you've ever done psychedelics and experienced ego death, you know exactly what I'm talking about already. But why is the human brain programmed with the ability to basically turn on and off a switch and it says, oh, well, now I'm perceiving magical things and I believe I'm God and I feel truly connected and this seems more real than reality. Even if it's just a functionality of our brains, this basically means that there are chemicals present in nature that allow our brains to function on a more efficient level than the ones that we're given with our food and our everyday lives. I mean, if self is just an illusion that is created by a part of the brain that realizes life is a lot more manageable if we're not experiencing each individual part of ourself, each of the billion neurons firing in our brain, each of the blood cells going to all the parts of our body. I mean, all that stuff is technically us. We just don't consider it ourself until it hits our conscious mind. You know what I'm saying? And so, lack of selfhood, all you have to really do is say, oh, well, the mind is just the same as one of these blood cells. It's just something that exists as a response of the universe twisting its fucking cogs. You know, you had no say whether or not you were born, and no human had a say in whether or not we evolved. It's just we were alive, and our instincts took us to be able to survive long enough to be able to think about these kinds of things. But we're no longer in the era of instincts. We don't need instincts to stay alive anymore because we have technology. And so pretty soon, you know, when they get this political charade under control, I think we're in for one hell of a series of advancements. Because think about it, what are instincts? I mean, each time you ask this question of what something is, you know, a concept like this, and you analyze it and say, where did it come from? What happens in life as a direct result of the existence of this concept? I've heard a lot of wacky stuff, but one thing that I've held for a while is, you know, and I forget, it was an astrophysicist hundreds of years ago that calculated the entire density, basically, the entire composition of the observable universe. And he said, well, if you crush everything to a fine powder, and then, you know, say planets are basically this, stars are this, and black holes, the way it's distributed throughout space leaves a certain pattern, you know. And so basically, if we all come from the same thing, A, the universe knew what the end goal was when the Big Bang happened, or B, the amount of energy that was created in that moment is calculatable and therefore programmable within the framework of this universe. I mean, if anything can be known at all, it would imply that, you know, this is a discoverable thing. I mean, you can look at the frequency of a sound wave based on a bomb, and then you can calculate exactly when that sound wave is going to dissipate, as long as you know the medium at which it's traveling through. Maybe there was an end goal, maybe there was a reason energy became. I truly believe that the very beginning of the universe is just on the other side of the Planck distance, which means if you zoom in and look at the smallest fundamental thing, you hit a wall. And then I personally believe if you are to zoom out at the longest scale, you get the same wall. And basically, those are the outer reaches of what we can observe, given we aren't smart enough, or we don't know enough to even have a way to think about what might be on the other side of the Planck length. There's just not enough information. So, I like to look towards Eastern religions and stuff, and things that they allude to. Even Christianity has cool stories that basically say, well, there's another side. There's another side of reality that's just right there, but this one is so powerful to us that we barely ever get to see the other side. And of course, people who take psychedelics will tell you that that's true. And then it's funny because I talk a lot about Terence McKenna, and then he used this quote one time, and I actually disagree with him on this one. It's in a video called DMT is Everything, and he's talking about this place in the East and how these temples had all this beautiful artwork and all these geometric patterns and stuff. And it says whatever the name of this place was is half the world. And then Terrence goes on to say, well, yes, it is. And then he says DMT is half the world. What I really think they're alluding to, and I have no background information on what he's talking about, but I think he got this quote a little bit wrong. I think it is half, and then the other half is the psychedelic. It was right there. The whole reason these churches were designed with these symmetrical patterns and all this, mathematical spacing out of all the statues and big echoey, reverby rooms so you could really hear the mantras and stuff. It's just a place for tripping. It really just is. And so there's the set and setting. And so what you have now is you have your setting, and you have your place for your religious ceremony, which is what it was throughout history. I really think it's the same from beginning to end, and I don't think that there's ever going to be a divine intervention. I think that maybe life will emerge elsewhere in the universe, and after enough time, humans will interact with it. But I really just think the laws of physics and the stuff that we understand on the levels of restriction, like how fast we can travel through space, how much energy we can withstand in our physical bodies before we die, stuff like that. We're just it is the way you always thought it was here. But there have always been ways to get out of here. I mean, we all know that here is a temporary state anyway. Everybody dies, and then there's really just with so much life left in the universe, why right now would we come here just to disappear? And I think this whole idea of existing in a lack of selfhood kind of is the bridge that we need to cross in order to realize that, we're still going to be around when we die. You have to learn to be able to perceive life as though there is no you. That way, when your body is gone and your brain is gone, you can still continue. I think the brain did create the idea of selfhood, but it took awareness, universal awareness that has existed since the beginning of time. It somehow got smart enough to perceive this awareness and use it to come to the conclusion of selfhood. I truly believe that the brain is just a remote control that uses neural patterns to unlock doors that are just everywhere in the universe.